Assalamu alaikum friends. Today we are going to start our first topic, that is dimensions of physical quantities. Each and every physical base quantity has a dimension. For example, the mass has dimension that is written under the square brackets capital M. This is the dimension of mass, while for the length the dimension is L, written under the square brackets, and for the time the dimension is T. So the basic definition of the dimension is that the capital letter for the specific base quantity written under the square bracket is called its dimension. We can check the dimensions of the formula by exerting these basic dimensions in that formula. For example, we are talking about the velocity. What is the velocity? Velocity is basically equals to the distance covered by object in a unit time. So the dimension of the distance, that is length, the dimension of the distance will be L under the brackets divided by the dimension of the time is capital T written under the square brackets. So we can write it like this: L, dimension of the length, and this is the dimension of the time, inverse of dimension of the time. So V equals to velocity is equals to L into inverse of T. This is the dimension of velocity. There is another example of force. For example, F force is equals to ma, mass into acceleration. The dimension of the mass is m, written under the square brackets, while for the dimension of acceleration we know that acceleration is equals to distance change in the velocity per unit. Acceleration is basically the rate of change of velocity. So rate of change of velocity is v divided by t. This is m, and dimensions for velocity, we know that dimension for velocity is L into inverse of t, that is per unit time, divided by the time. Then dimension of the time is capital T written under the square brackets. So we can write it as m into L. This T will move on the numerator, so T inverse into T inverse. So m L into T inverse square. So m L T inverse square. This is the dimension for the force. So these are the dimensions. We can derive dimensions for every equation using these basic dimensions: time, length, mass, and base quantities. Each base quantities. Now if we talk about the momentum, that is P, linear momentum, that is equals to m into v, mass into velocity. We know that mass has dimension, that is m, and velocity has dimension, that is, we have tried before, L into inverse of time. So it is written as m into L into T inverse. This is the dimension for the momentum. So it is simple to derive dimension of any equation. We can use these basic dimensions for any equation to derive its dimensions. So thanks.